2 months since I've filmed and posted a video, and that is just way too long. As you can see, I'm not pregnant anymore. I've had my baby Celestia, and she is the best thing in the world, to be honest. I've just been adjusting to motherhood, of course, and just getting back to myself, because honestly you go through a lot, like labour, delivery and just like postpartum. Like, it is a lot. I'm gonna get straight into this video. So this is going to be my labour and delivery story. I'm going to try and keep it as short and as sweet as possible, but it really wasn't short or sweet, so just bear with me. I've got some clips that I'm going to insert just so that you can get more of an idea of the process and what happened, because it is quite complicated. Due on the 9th of May, and I had her on the 7th of May at 9:57. Yes, so she's talking, she wants to be involved. Yes, so what happened was, on the 6th I went about my day normal. I literally was like having a pamper day, just did a face mask, I was just chilling out, like was not expecting anything at all. And then as it got more towards the evening time, roughly must have been about 6 o'clock, I got this pain, and beforehand I was getting like these small pains, which was just Braxton Hicks, which is literally just like small tightenings, like period cramps. I've been having them for about 2 weeks, so I sort of knew that this wasn't that. So I was just sort of like, oh, okay, like hopefully this is it, because I was just sort of sick of being pregnant at that point. Towards the end it does get quite tiring. Out for another one came 10 minutes later, and I was like, okay, I think that this might be happening, I don't know, like it's too early to tell. So I just kept timing them, they kept coming every 10 minutes, and I was like, okay, like these are kind of uncomfortable, more like really quite harsh period pains, but like I could breathe through it, I could go on my phone, it wasn't really a big deal. Kept being every 10 minutes apart. I'm not going to include every single detail in this story, I'm just going to add the most important bits, because we'd be sat here for like an hour and no one wants to watch that. So yeah, just kept getting worse and worse. I sort of went into my mum's room and told her. My boyfriend was in here with me, and he knew what was going on. I just told my mum, and I was like, yeah, I think that I'm having contractions, and she just said, you know, like monitor it, this will probably go on through the night. And so it did. More and more through the night, like 10, 11, 12 o'clock, they were coming more sort of like 5 to 7 minutes apart, and these were like, okay, like this is really quite painful. Not to the point where I was like, oh, I can't bear it, I need to go into hospital. It was just more sort of like, ouch, like this is actually hurting now, whereas before it was just sort of discomfort. And then that kept going on, and sort of I wanted to stay at home for as long as I possibly could. Like I didn't really want to go into hospital just to get sent back home, so I just sort of was thinking it's going to be a long ride, I just need to persevere. Okay, Baba. My mum recommended using lavender oil, which is quite calming oil, and I quite like it, so I just sort of put some of that on my pillow, on my chest, and I was just sort of in my bed, just sort of like breathing through it. At this point I did have to breathe through, I couldn't just sort of lay around and sort of be in that moment. I did have to like close my eyes and breathe and just focus a little bit. I was just breathing in lavender oil when they would come, and just sort of trying to like distract myself when they'd come, and just keep my eyes closed and just think of like positive things. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I was just sort of thinking like, wow, if this goes on for like quite a few more hours, this is going to be quite difficult. But I was like, I'm prepared to do this, it's okay. At the end of it, you get your baby. So I ran myself a nice hot bath, and I got in the bath and I put some lavender oil in there as well, and it was quite calming. But like I had a few contractions in the bath, and I was literally like holding on to the edge of the bath when a contraction would come. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, I'm just saying my experience. I think some people have it harder, some people have it easier. This is just what happened to me. I'm not gonna like water it down and say that it was so smooth, so easy, and like childbirth's like amazing. It is, but it is like really, really painful. Long story cut short, this went on through the whole night, which was to be expected. Came to the morning, I basically didn't get any sleep, because every time I would sort of drift off, I'd get woken up by a contraction, and it wasn't the sort of thing that you can like brush off in your sleep. It literally would wake me up and like scare me almost. And then it came to the morning and I was thinking, surely something needs to happen or whatever. Bearing in mind, my waters did not break at all throughout this whole, like throughout all of these contractions. I thought that like during the night at some point that my waters would break and that that would be an indication to maybe go to the hospital. Because my contractions as the night progressed were basically like 2 to 3 minutes apart, and usually at that point they're like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. But because my waters hadn't broken, I thought there's not really much point me going there because they're just going to send me back. Skip the morning. It was just the same thing going through all the way through the morning. I tried to have a bit of breakfast, just breathing through my contractions, literally closing my eyes, and just like I couldn't talk to anyone through them. I just had to focus on the pain and just trying to like cope with it and not just like basically deteriorate. I'd gone to the toilet and I was just sat there and I was just sort of like crying because I was just like, this is so painful. I don't understand how I can keep going if this has lasted this long. Like I really was struggling. I just went to my mum, burst into tears. I was already crying anyway, but I just burst into tears and I was just like, I honestly can't handle it anymore. We need to like go up to the hospital and just see if I've progressed, because it wasn't that I wanted to give up or that I needed pain relief, it's that I needed some form of reassurance that things was happening, because it just felt like I was going through all this pain and nothing was happening because obviously my waters hadn't broken. I said to my mum, let's just call up the hospital and just ask them for some advice. So I called up the unit and I just asked and just told them about my contractions and how painful they were, and they just said, you know, it could be a bit longer. First babies do tend to take quite a while. And I'd explained like it's been almost sort of 24 hours now. I would really like to come in, and she said, yeah, that's fine. Just come up to the unit, sort of like the day assessment unit. My boyfriend, me, my mum, my sister Shania hopped in the car and we drove to the hospital. We went to the day assessment unit, which isn't really like the main bit where you'd like give birth, it's just sort of like beforehand. I remember when we were in the waiting room waiting to like be like put onto the ward, I was just like holding on to like the, you know, like hospital chairs. I was like holding on to it and like clenching it so hard because like the contractions were just so painful at this point. And we got put onto the ward and I was sat on a bed, and she asked if she could examine me, which is just when they sort of, sorry this is a lot of information, but they just sort of like put their fingers in just to see how many centimetres dilated you are. A lot of people will know this, but I'm like, some people don't, so I'll just say, so to push a baby out you need to be 10 centimetres, and in active labour you're usually, well, she said that it would be like 3 to 4 would be enough for you to sort of stay on the unit and that things are sort of progressing. So she checked me, and beforehand they sort of checked the baby to make sure that she was happy, heartbeat was beating fine. I'll insert a clip of that here. She checked me and she said, you're 2 to 3 centimetres. So I was just sort of like, I wasn't disheartened. I was like, oh, that's quite good. Like, I'm glad I'm not like 0. She said, you can either stay and we'll just keep you on this unit until you progress more and put you onto labour board, or you can go home and then come back. And I was sort of thinking, I'd rather be in hospital in case I progress really quickly. We stayed, and I'll insert a few clips here. Almost like bouncing the pain away. It kind of helped in a way, but I was so done at this point. I'd sort of go on my phone, but as soon as one would come, I'd just shove my phone down, shut my eyes, and would not talk to anyone. Like, it was excruciating. Went backwards and forth from the birthing ball onto sitting onto like one of the hospital chairs. And I just remember just like being on my phone and just being so calm, and then it would come and I would suddenly just be like just out the room, eyes shut, like breathing so heavily, like in and out, just to sort of, I was trying to almost like blow the pain away. Sort of thought, oh okay, I'm just going to exchange onto the bed. I by this point I'd been there for like 3 hours or so. I went onto the bed, and then when they would come, it would just be I had something called back labour, which is when you feel it a lot more in like your lower back, like where your tailbone is. It almost just felt like someone was like squeezing my spine like backwards and forwards, and just squeezing it really hard and then letting go, and it would finish. But my contractions were lasting about like a minute, and they were about 2 minutes apart. I didn't really have much of a break in between. There wasn't really a chance for me to sort of like collect myself. It would go away, I'd have like a minute, and then it would just come back. It was just back to back to back, and my water still hadn't broken. Yeah, I went onto the bed, and at that point, like, I just burst into tears again, because I was just sort of thinking, I actually don't know how I can do this. Like, I'm in so much pain, and nothing I do, like no position I change into is relieving that pain. At that point, my mum and me and like everyone in the room, we were just sort of talking about pain relief, and then someone came through and spoke to me and said something called pethidine, which is like an injection, and it sort of makes you a bit drowsy, a bit sleepy, and it just sort of like helps take a bit of the pain away. The only thing is that it tends to make babies quite sleepy, because obviously it does go through to them as well as you. And for some reason that really put me off all of a sudden, because I was thinking, I don't know, if I progress really quickly, then when it comes to pushing, I'm not going to be able to push her out, and then I'll have to C-section. All this stuff's running through my mind. But I just said, yeah, sure, they can bring it over. So when she got to me to bring it over, and I'm there like in tears because I'm in so much pain, she's like, yeah, sure, I can give it to you now. And I suddenly go, no, I don't want it. And she was just like, no, I don't want it, just leave it. I said, I'm just gonna have to do this on my own. I said, I'm just gonna have to go through this pain for her, basically. Horrifying image in my head of something just going wrong to her. And I was thinking, like, you go through 9 months of like dedication and a lot of struggles, and it just sort of felt like, why should I just sort of give up now? This isn't me saying anything about people that have pain relief. It's more than fine, and I think for my second child I would definitely have some pain relief, because it was too much for myself to handle. But it's just that in that moment I just felt really passionate, and I just was thinking, like, I've already been through so many hours of pain, I can take a bit more for her, just so that, I don't know, so that she can come out as safe as possible. Bearing in mind I wanted to have a water birth as well, so you're not allowed to have any pain relief if you want to have a water birth. So I was thinking, you know, it's a win-win if I just don't have anything. Maybe 6 o'clock or so. I don't have a timestamp on all of these things, but I know roughly it must have been about 6 o'clock. And we just thought, oh, okay, maybe I should just like run a bath on that unit, because they have a bath there. I got into the bath. I'm not even going to hold back with the clips I've got, because my boyfriend luckily took some clips that I can insert, so you can sort of have more of an idea, because me just sitting here talking, it doesn't give you much of an image. I'll insert that here.
It's fine. You're gonna be baby.
I just sort of sat on the birthing ball as the bath was running, and then I sat in the bath, and I wasn't in there for that long, but I suddenly felt the urge to push, and I was thinking, my waters haven't broken, I don't think I've progressed that much, you know, I need to chill. But I was sort of thinking, I really have the urge to push. She checked me after me being in the bath for like, must have been like half an hour or so, and she said, oh, you're 6 centimeters. And for me that was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, thank God, like, we're actually kind of getting there. I can do this. I was feeling really pumped. So they were like, we can take you round to the birthing suite now, where the birthing pool is. So we went round the corner. So they ran the water for me, and then they let me, I just instantly, as soon as we got in there, because a contraction came as soon as we got in there, I quickly like rushed over to the sofa that was in there, and just sort of got onto all fours with my bum up, and I was just like breathing through it. And they were like, you can have some gas and air now, and I was like, cool, that's great, like, it's been like over 24 hours now, I'm happy to have some gas and air, thank you very much.
You guys,
just for the memory.
So I had some of that, and it's weird. It was like just like when you're really drunk, if I'm being honest with you. Wait, I'm gonna put her down because she's fast asleep. A bit dizzy, a bit disorientated, and I was just breathing that in, and I still wasn't like using it properly, because I'd heard that like if if you use it too much at sort of the beginning, it sort of wears off like anything else. So I was thinking if I just have a little bit and I'll save most of it for maybe with like when I'm pushing. The water was run and it was so nice. They were like, oh, what colour would you like us to change like the lights in the pool, not in the pool, on the ceiling. And I think my sister said, oh, she likes green, so yeah, they put it to green, and they had like a speaker sort of thing that you can attach your phone to. So my sister Shania played some music, and she actually played Milky Chance, because I really like them. I've always really liked them. Good. So it was really nice in there, but I obviously didn't appreciate all of that at the time because I was just in so much pain. It was nice, but now looking back on it, it was a really, really nice like space to have had her in. Got into the pool, it was really nice and warm. I was really enjoying it in there, and I could have the gas and air on the side when I was in there. And I was just sort of like spreading myself out, just sort of getting comfortable, because I knew that I'm obviously going to be having her soon. Waters still haven't broken, by the way, so yeah, it's just interesting really how everyone is different. Like in the movies you think, yeah, you have contractions, water breaks, have a baby, all done, but no, that's not how it was for me. I was in there for probably like an hour and a half or so. Don't quote me on it really, because I'm just going by what it felt like in there. Yeah, so after an hour and a half, I was really, at this point, I was really sort of like grunting through the contractions. I never thought I was going to be a noisy person during labour or delivery, but I was quite noisy. Not screaming, but I was just like, I'm not going to imitate it, but really grunting through it. And like, they said that I sounded like a moose or a cow or something. I'm not even going to try and imitate it because that's just so embarrassing. Yeah. They were just sort of like, oh, we can break your waters if you want, because like this is going on quite a while now. They weren't concerned about the baby or me, but they were just sort of like, we can break them if you would like to. So I was like, yeah, sure. Got out of the water onto the bed in there. The room was really nice, by the way. There was like a sofa in there. There was obviously a hospital bed and the pool, and there was like a bathroom in there, like with a shower and stuff. And I was really lucky to be able to have my boyfriend, my older sister Amara, and my little sister Shania, and then obviously my mum. Shout out to all of you guys because they really helped me throughout this whole process. I forgot to mention, when I was on the day assessment unit and I was like going through that pain, the only thing that helped was them like taking it in turns to like push down and rub into my back, because it was like pushing down on the pain, so it wasn't sort of like as overwhelming. Got onto the bed, and they get this sort of, it sounds really gory, but they get this sort of like rod hook thing. They sort of put it in there, break your waters. And then as soon as they did that, they realised that she'd done meconium inside of me. So it sounds disgusting, because it is. For all those that don't know, meconium is when a baby does a poo while they're still inside, and it's a sign of distress. So I think because I'd been going on for so long, she wanted to come out. She had had enough, just like me, and she had done a poo inside, which can cause infection for her, because obviously she's still in there, and once your waters break, she's just sort of like dry in there. She's not protected, and it's a higher risk for infection. I'm not a doctor, I'm just going by what I can remember being told. So yeah, they were just like, okay, we're gonna have to put monitors on you. To be honest with you, I thought I was just gonna get wheeled around to theatre, because I just assumed that like she was distressed and it wasn't gonna work out, but thank God she was fine. They monitored her and just kept these like big sort of strappy monitors on there. I guess they've got big circles on them. And I remember, because I watched a lot of documentaries while I was pregnant, that being like upright when you're gonna push helped, because obviously gravity helps pull her down. So I was not gonna lay on my back. That was not gonna happen. So when they broke my waters, they said, yeah, you're 9 centimeters. So I got up and I was like holding onto the bed, like hugging it basically that way with my knees down on the bed sort of thing. So I was up, and I just started doing like small pushes, and yeah, I just kept pushing and pushing. And it's not the sort of pushing you think, because for some reason I thought it'd be like when you go to the toilet and you push like that. It's not. It's like pushing with everything you've got. Like I've never pushed so hard in my whole life, because I was exhausted at this point, exhausted to the point where I was thinking like, my body actually can't do this anymore. Like, I don't understand how I've gotten this far. Like, I was just pushing so hard, like my face was going red, and like going almost like bloodshot on my forehead, and I was just pushing really hard, and that went on for a little bit of time, maybe like 20 minutes to half an hour. And they were all cheering me on. They were just like, come on, push, push, push. I was like, yeah, like trying to push as hard as I can, taking in the gas and air, like when a contraction would come. But at this point, I've been having contractions so strong for such a long time that usually like you get really big contractions when you need to push the baby out, and those weren't coming for me, so I didn't really have much to push on. I was just sort of like pushing as hard as I could when I thought I needed to. Okay, she's back. Anyway, so yeah, she'd get like sliding down and then back up, and I was just thinking like, come on, like I'm trying so hard, just please come out. Eventually her head came out, and then they were just sort of like, in that process, while you're pushing the head out, they sort of tell you to sort of like pant instead of like continuously pushing, because that's how you sort of tear down there. So I just sort of listened when they were like, pant, 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 don't keep pushing, because the head just slowly comes out on its own. It started coming out all fine, and then she just almost got sort of stuck, and they were like, they just sort of had to help. Her shoulders got kind of stuck, and not badly to the point where they needed to use forceps or any tools or anything, but they needed to help her a little bit get out. So then they sort of like held onto her shoulders, and they sort of like pulled just to help along a little bit, and it felt like they were pulling me like off the bed. That's how strong they pulled. But they pulled a little bit, and then she came out, and she wasn't screaming, she was just like making a little bit of noise, so I was like a bit worried. But as soon as she came out, I just turned around and I was like, my baby, it's my baby, and I was just so excited. Put her on me, and she was literally blue when she came out, blue, because like the trauma of just like coming out. She came out quickly in a sense, but it was just a lot for her to go through, so she was a bit blue, her eyes were bloodshot. They weighed her, and then they just put her on me, and I just sort of started like breastfeeding her. Yeah, and it was so nice. It was really emotional. I thought I would cry, but I didn't cry. I think I was just so shocked. I'll probably do a separate video on my first week back with the newborn, with Celestia, because that's too long to even put in this. But let's just say the first week it was really, really tough, and not just for the usual reasons. There was a few other things, a few other complications, should I say, not with me but with her. Nothing major, but yeah, it wasn't a smooth ride. Probably left out a few things, but I've tried my very best, and I hope you enjoyed my labour and delivery story. Trying to post more frequently. I've got lots of video ideas in store, and yeah, just check back in for my next video. Like, comment and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Bye.